Hi, I'm Dustin with Pro AV School. In this video, I'm going to show you some troubleshooting tips and techniques that I've developed over the years that has helped me troubleshoot basically anything. Number one is be curious. I approach problems with the mindset of, I wonder why it failed. I wonder what went wrong here. I don't cast blame. I don't try to point fingers and blame other technicians or other people for their mistakes. I honestly want to figure out what the heck happened. I want to fix the problem, and I'm curious to understand what it was that made it stop working. Number two is to isolate the variables. If you change too many things at one time, you're going to really confuse yourself and you're never going to get to the root of the problem. So even if you have to write down some notes, make sure you only change one thing at a time and test it to see if that's the thing that failed or if it's something else. I've watched people mess this up before, and it's very frustrating for them because they're changing a bunch of things and you can tell that they're just annoyed and trying to solve the problem, but they've actually already tested certain things. Once you've ruled a certain thing out, you can cross it off the list and you don't have to test it anymore. Number three is don't bias your results. So if it was an installation that you did yourself, you're gonna instinctively not want to blame your own soldering joints. You're not going to want to blame your own connectors, but you got to approach it like a detective and think that it could potentially be anything that's at fault. So don't rule anything out. Number four, you want to get to the point where you can define the actual problem. Because if you can define what the problem actually is, even if you can't solve it, then you can start researching, you can start Googling, you can start looking at manufacturer documentation, but you have a more defined idea of what's going wrong. It's not just, this thing doesn't work. Even if you're not able to solve it, you can ask other people, you can consult experts and try to get an answer, but you can't approach those kinds of people with a vague definition of the problem. You need to define it clearly. Number five is to leverage known tests. So what that means is that you have spent a bit of time beforehand with your test equipment, and whatever it is, maybe it's an RS-232 crossover adapter, maybe it's a RS-232 to USB cable, and you're looking at stuff with some sort of terminal emulation program. Maybe you're using Wireshark. These tools, you need to know how to use them, and you need to know what to expect as a proper result, so that when you go on site and you test it, and you're testing something that's not working, you're not confused of whether or not your test is actually valid. So that requires a bit of preparation beforehand and continued learning, which is something that I always recommend. The more that you learn and the more that you know over your career, the more capable you are when you're confronted with all sorts of different problems. And there are tons of different weird problems. I've seen so many in my years. It's important to always be learning and always improving what you know and what you're capable of. As you grow in your career, knowing how to test things different ways and being confident that your results are valid, that definitely gives you the edge over people that are just ripping out cables and swapping gear. You need to go at it with a bit of intelligence. Number six is to fix the problem if you can. If you can't, you want to document as much as you can. And even if you do fix the problem, document as much as you can. You want to treat everything as a learning experience. You want to be able to leverage what you've learned on this problem, and in the future, you're going to find systems that have the same type of issues, and you'll be able to identify it right away. So hopefully you find these tips useful. I think with troubleshooting, the biggest thing for me is getting that mindset right. You always want to be curious, and you always want to get to the root of the problem and not lay blame and try to say that it's somebody's fault. The problem exists. Let's solve it. If you like this video, please like it here on YouTube. I'd love to hear your comments, and subscribe to the channel so you can get notified when we post new videos. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next video.